Hello, fellow YouTube dwellers. This is a redux of my second ever video draft. One which hopefully will be a bit less ranty since I've started actually writing scripts for these rather than just spouting whatever drivel pops into my head into a microphone. As the title suggests, this video is about weapons, specifically as it pertains to everyday survival. So if you're looking for a guide to becoming Rambo, you'll have to go elsewhere. With all the talk of World War III humming about the internet as of late, and in light of my own long-standing fascination with the subject and all that pertains thereto, I figured there'd be no better time to throw my own hat into this proverbial rink. So here goes. Let's start, as we like to do on this channel, with the stupidly obvious, which in this case means the fact that weapons are tools, first and foremost. That means that, like all tools, they are designed to fulfill a specific role or function. Guns, like hammers, can just as easily be destructive as constructive depending on the wielder. But just like the contents of an ordinary toolbox, weapons come in a whole myriad of shapes, sizes, metrics, and configurations, which, if you're not a lifelong devotee of such devices, can very easily turn into a daunting mountain range. That is where I come in. This video is intended to offer the everyman a foothold into the armament sphere. No more, no less. If you take nothing else away from it, understand this. Let your needs dictate your choices. Don't waste your time and money on tools you have no use for or have no idea how to use. That said, let us quickly go over some of the broader categories of weapons, their general utility and prospective areas of application, starting small and working our way up. First up, knives. The quintessential everyday carry. It is commonly said that what separates a knife from a dagger is that a knife is a tool first and a weapon second, whereas a dagger is the inverse. While I admit I subscribe to this view, I wouldn't put it in here otherwise. It should not be taken as gospel. Next, swords. The favorite of the would-be villain and hero, dashing rogue and thieving scoundrel alike, favorited for its elegant balance of dexterity and lethality. However, its relatively high skill ceiling and lower utility, owing to its more delicate proportions, does rank it lower for most everyday purposes. Now we come to spears. The king of weapons. Sticks, and big pointy sticks have dominated barnyards, households, and battlefields since even before we learned how to set them on fire. Larger and more cumbersome than a knife, but far less ominous or picky than an axe or sword. Man-powered ballistic weapons, or MPBs as they are called by me, are a range of weapons that rely on human muscle power to launch a projectile, be it a bolt, a dart, an arrow, or quarrel. These have less range and power than a gun, but are also far quieter, and what crossbows lack in reload speed they make up for in user-friendliness and the ability to be carried ready, though I don't recommend it, and can be shot from behind cover or even with one hand, though I don't suggest making a habit of that either. Plus, bladed arrowheads can actually cut through Kevlar and sandbags, which would normally block bullets, so there's that. The term blunt force weapons tells you pretty much all you need to know. Strong, brutal, and uncompromising. These have all the possible utility and lethality of a stick meshed with a rock, but with none of their individual subtlety. Now we get to more complicated territory. I've chosen to call this section the low-velocity section, mostly because things you'll find in here are less reliably lethal to humans and are therefore most useful as deterrents or for hunting small game. Blow darts, pellet guns, slingshots, throwing knives, and so on. Though not as lethal as the movies make them seem, any or all are still undoubtedly dangerous. Forget that at your peril. Round 6, guns. This is what everyone came here for. However, as this is an introductory session, I'll keep it stupidly simple. First, the basics. The gist of what you need to know to make an informed firearm purchase is what is meant by the terms caliber, bullet, and cartridge load. Caliber is the diameter of the bullet. The bullet is the pointy bit that comes flying out the barrel, and the load, or charge, is the amount of gunpowder in the cartridge. As force equals mass times velocity squared, a smaller caliber bullet with a higher load equals more speed, and thus more penetration power. Now we come to the real question of the day. What guns should I buy? Again, this depends on you, where you are, what your needs are, etc. However, I would personally recommend you invest in at least one of each of the following categories of firearms, if at all legally and financially practical. First, a handgun. You can carry it with you, concealed or open depending on the local laws. Standard magazine capacity for semi-auto handguns is 12 to 15 rounds. Revolvers are simpler to operate, but less mod-able and slower to reload. That said, if you need more than 5 or 6 rounds of .357 to solve a problem, you should just get a bigger gun. Speaking of which, shotguns, the granddaddy of all home defense weapons, at least according to mine. Most shotgun terminology and attributes are fairly self-explanatory, which in my view is chief among the reasons why every responsible adult should own one for their home. Not far behind it is that they're cheap, at least as far as firearms go. However, one thing I think is worth noting is the term gauge. Unlike caliber, it refers to the diameter of the bore, which is the inside of the barrel. Also, unlike calibers, the smaller the gauge number, the larger the shot diameter. So, for example, a 20-gauge slug is twice as small as a 10-gauge, and so on. Why that's the case is irrelevant for the scope of this video, and we've still got 2 more sections to cover. Rifles. Not to be confused with assault rifles, which we'll cover shortly. Rifles typically come in one of 3 operational styles: bolt action, semi-auto, or single action, all of which mean exactly what you'd think they do. Designed for long range, high accuracy, and high penetrating power, rifles are good for hunting things that can't readily shoot back at you. Last, but certainly not least, assault rifles. Not to be confused with the assault weapons our politicians love to rave about. No. Unlike those, assault rifles actually have a set definition. It is a firearm that fires an intermediate cartridge, that is, a cartridge whose load lies somewhere between that of a pistol and a rifle. Strictly speaking, I will grant that this option is more of a luxury than a necessity, as, in my view, the owner of a rifle, pistol, and/or a shotgun will be more than capable of handling just about any threat that comes at them from the civilian or natural fronts. However, for those of you who really want to get into the whole prepper space, then your only real question is whether to go east or west, sleek or rugged, tactical or versatile. And yes, strictly speaking, you don't absolutely have to choose one or the other. However, from what I've seen, the AR-15 starts at around $1,000, whereas the AK tends to start at around $800. Again, this is my personal stance. Your own mileage may vary. But yeah, that pretty much covers all the bases, at least in the sense that a doormat pretty much covers the front porch. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see a follow-up where I go into more depth, and if so, what specifically you'd like to see me dive into. But until then, good luck out there and happy hunting.